Games Workshop have announced the new version of Epic, which is technically the old version of Epic in the form of Legions Imperialis, but unfortunately this has come at the cost of what seems to be an entire game system. Now before we get started, I want to say a quick welcome to new YouTube members Keith Moore and Arhine, and new patron Crip. Now if you're supporting me on either platform at the cultist level or higher, there's going to be something very new, very different, very exclusive to you dropping in the next 24 hours or so. It's something that will not be available for the public for quite a while because, well, we're going to build it and create it and make it better together. So look out for that. Now while the arrival of Legions Imperialis has been met with quite a bit of support and joy from quite a good number of people, it has unfortunately come at something of a cost, because Aeronautica Imperialis has been absolutely gutted to make way for the new game's arrival. And when I say completely gutted, I mean completely gutted. On Wednesday, a notification was placed on the Warhammer community website, not even a full article, just a little pop-up that appeared if you clicked a small button on the front page, relatively small compared to all the other posts, and it says, as you can see, touching down for now. With the looming arrival of Legions Imperialis, you might notice that some of the older range of epic scale Aeronautica Imperialis miniatures are moving to last chance to buy. The xenos aircraft of the Eldari, Orcs and Tau, as well as some Imperial planes, will be leaving the range for the foreseeable future. Now before I show you the next page, if you're a fan of Aeronautica, then I can only apologise for the pain that this is about to cause, because genuinely does suck. Like, I'm not an Aeronautica player, but it really does feel not great to me as someone, say, on the outside of the system, looking in, seeing that something new is on its way. Well, I say new, it's not really new, it's just epic again, but seeing that something new is on its way in and that something else is being completely gutted to make way for it, I don't know, that's not a great feeling, and I'm not even being personally affected by this, you know? So we can see that the Phoenix Bomber Squadron is last chance to buy, as are the Tiger Shark Fighter Bombers, so are the Orc Air War Heavy Bombers, sorry. Oh, there's so much stuff. There's so much stuff. The aircraft cards, ground assets, I mean, even some of the, as you can see, like Imperial Navy Marauder Bombers, the Avenger Strike Fighters, those are also no longer available online. I'm assuming because they weren't last chance to buy, that those ones are going to effectively be repackaged with different boxes to probably reflect it being Horus Heresy based, but I don't know. The key thing here though is that all of the Xenos stuff is on its way out. It is disappearing and we don't know how long for. Now it does say that you can still play aerial battles in the Age of Darkness with Horus Heresy Aeronautica Imperialis, which will still be available, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that that version of the game does not have any of the Xenos aircraft which you probably collected, so I don't know how helpful that necessarily is, because let's face it, if it's Horus Heresy, it's all about Space Marine versus Space Marine, human versus human, and so the rest of it is not really going to get a look in. And honestly, this is just kind of disappointing. Like, when they released Titanicus, when they released Aeronautica, I think there was just this general assumption that it might eventually lead to a reboot of Epic, that we might see these epic scale miniatures being used for another game. And something that was frequently called for, and remains frequently called for when it comes to Titanicus, is the inclusion of Xenos Titans, which of course we have not received. We haven't had that, and I was kind of hoping that if those two forces did ever come together to form a new version of Epic, that it would be done in such a way that it could integrate the existing ranges in, frankly, a satisfying and fun way. Not by just taking one of them and completely stripping out anything to do with things that aren't Space Marines, or the Imperium, or Chaos Space Marines, or Traitors. The fact that all the Xenos aircraft are going just kind of sucks. There's no other way to put it. In the grand scheme of Games Workshop products, I don't feel like Aeronautica has really had all that much time in the limelight. I mean, it's something that has gained quite a nice little following from what I can tell, and I know there's quite a lot of people who are genuinely upset to see that once again Space Marines are getting all the love and other things are getting all of the being kicked to the curb. Obviously, if you've already got the rules for Aeronautica and you've already got the planes that you wanted, then there's nothing to stop you continuing to play the game. There's nothing to stop you carrying on with that side of your hobby, with that side of your gaming. And of course I would encourage that if you enjoy it, to just carry on. the fact that you're not going to be able to get any further models for it if you are a Xenos collector, and it's safe to assume that future releases are probably not going to be that big a thing. I mean, at this point, I think we can probably guess that any sort of epic scale miniatures will be aimed primarily at Legions Imperialis, because of course that's where all of the attention is going to go rules-wise. Whether that also means that Titanicus is going to see, I mean, frankly, less support, I kind of assumed that it will. I mean, then again, how much support have we had Titanicus-wise recently? Of course, we've had all the attention for 10th edition, and so other systems have kind of taken a back seat for that. But Titanicus felt like it could expand outwards towards the Xenos spectrum, and instead it's all kind of focused back into an entirely different system, which, while fun and interesting, might not necessarily be what a few players signed up for. Same thing with Aeronautica. I mean, it was its own standalone game, and it was quite fun. I had a couple of demo games, but never really got fully into it, and of course it has now been subsumed entirely by something else, and a good amount of the model range stripped out from under it. I guess the main thing that bugs me with stuff like this is that it feels like taking away options for the sake of taking away options. Things like this, though, I think it's where the kind of rational brain is overtaken by the sort of emotional side of things. I mean, realistically, if they are starting a new version of Epic, and they want to have the shelf space and the stock for that, it's going to be vastly more popular than Aeronautica. I think it's probably safe to say that. I think it's safe to say that a aircraft-only game is not going to appeal as much as a game where you have like multifaceted play with tanks and infantry and titans and aircraft, so it does make sense for them to shut down something else to make space for the sort of new kid on the block, so to speak, even if the new kid on the block is also old. And I get it. Like, realistically, they can't just keep making everything forever. Things like storage cost money, things sitting on shelves cost money to store, and so realistically, the idea that they would just leave everything how it is whilst constantly adding new products, that's just not how that works. And I know that. Like, I know that, logically speaking, that's how that works. But at the same time, I think it's fair to say that in the grand scheme of things, it's very easy for the Xenos factions to feel underrepresented. I mean, even when we have things like the fact that Necrons got a massive refresh at the start of 9th. Like Indomitus, it was all about Necrons. Necrons had tons of new models, we had some great updates, some really nice refreshes, and that's fantastic. Same thing's going on right now with Tyranids. Tyranids are getting loads of new stuff, and most of it looks absolutely quality. But at the same time, whenever we have a big refresh for, say, Necrons or Tyranids, we also have a big refresh for Space Marines, and Space Marines is already one of the biggest ranges that Games Workshop have. And I'm not necessarily complaining about the fact that they're bringing Space Marine stuff up to date, because frankly, I love the new Terminators, because I love Terminators as a whole, and they're now bigger and badder and girthier, and that's exactly what I want. And I also already have a couple of the Ballistus Dreadnoughts on the way, because, well, how could I not? It's the classic Boxnaut, but taller, and that's what I want. Well, nearly a classic Boxnaut. Look, they're going to be kit bashed and you know it, so it's fine. So when stuff like this happens, to get slightly back on topic, when you see something like Epic showing up again, and it's Horus Heresy based, so it's like, okay, well, it might expand out to more Xenos stuff at some point, it might grow into something bigger and more kind of all-encompassing, you know, kind of encroach onto 40k and start making it so that all the factions have got representation. There's hope there. There's hope, and it's like, well, it's Horus Heresy now and it's Space Marines now, but it may not be in the future. But just introducing it means that Xenos, once again, don't get anything. In fact, they get the opposite. They get stuff taken away. That side of things isn't fun. Like, that side of things doesn't sit well, even if you know logically that in order for them to produce this, something else has got to make way for it. And I would imagine out of all the stuff they have, Aeronautica is probably not doing as well as Titanicus, and that's probably why they chose to go that route. But it still sucks to see. I think my question inevitably is, what do you reckon? Do you play Aeronautica? Is this going to like properly impact you? Or is it more that you just don't like seeing Xenos stuff getting rid of when we have such an overrepresentation of everything else? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games, which you can use to support the channel if you would like. I leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.